Alright, so Nintendo's been around since 1889, and so that's basically a long time. So, for a company that a lot of people love, how much history do a lot of people really know about it? Because a lot can happen within 100 and something years, because I'm drawing a blank, 11, probably 131 years, let's just say. Um, so, hopefully you learned something new here. So a lot of people often think that Nintendo itself translates to leave luck to heaven, but alternately it also meant like the Temple of Free Honda Fuda, which basically means like, because it's a fortune card. So for the first 30 years, from 1889 to 1929, basically Nintendo was a card company for 30 years. And so if you didn't know this, I mean, even though a lot of people knew that Nintendo was, but they probably didn't know how long. And in some cases, Nintendo does kind of sell, they still sell trading cards. So they're still selling cards, but maybe not fortune cards. I'd have to see what Nintendo of Japan is selling, but because different countries sell different things. So here's a funny example. So back in 1909, and I mean even Japan's got different state laws or even country laws compared to where I live. I wouldn't be surprised they still do this in a way. But Nintendo at one point was actually marketing towards cigar stores, because they did business with each other. Because people in Japan, they're all businessmen and women. That's why they're successful, for the most part. But what ended up happening though was that might explain why, like, even years later, they might have had that, like, this wouldn't be the only example, but if you remember in Mario Kart 64, how, like, Nintendo was parodying, what is it, Marbaro? I always forget. Marlboro, or I don't know. I always forget how to say it. I don't smoke, so I don't really pay attention. But the cigarette company, that your which ones were those? The ones where they were, I think it was on Luigi's Raceway, like the very first level. So it's kind of interesting to think that Nintendo did business with drug companies even in the past, and cigar stores too. So it's quite interesting to see just how different Nintendo of Japan is compared to like Nintendo of America, for example. So Nintendo of Japan actually started over in Kyoto, Japan, before it moved over to Tokyo. But they actually have two buildings, at least two buildings in Japan. I don't know how many buildings they have all over Japan, but a lot of people seem to think that they originally started in Tokyo, but they were actually founded in Kyoto. And the building in Kyoto, ever since it's opened up, was the same Nintendo building from the very beginning. When the card company, the first building that Nintendo had ever built, the one with the fortune cards and all that, what they did was they rebuilt the store right next to it, and then they tore down the one next to it, the one that they were transitioning from. So it's interesting to know that because people in Japan, they weren't just going to take a day off work to do it. They would like still do business while they were still working on that, because it was money for them. So it's a smart idea too if you think about it. Multitasking gets you far in life. So as of this year, their revenue for in yen was 1.309 trillion. So that's like 1,309,000,000,000 yen basically. Which again, when you add yen together, basically it doesn't you don't have the decimal system. So the two zeros that you would use are just counted in there as well. As of right now, Nintendo has roughly 6,200 employees over the years, but it's most of them have been there since the very beginning, before they started getting into the software company. I got an example like Shigeru Miyamoto, or so right around 1929 is when Nintendo started going international. It also was right around the time when they started expanding their empire of wealth, and like it started really picking up over the years. A lot of people start to notice who they were, rather than just the cards they sold and all that. Yeah, they started getting into like international material and different diversities as well. And I mean, I want to say that the laws in Japan are different than like over here. So basically back in 1960s is when they actually required a license for being a public business. Even though, again, countries do things differently, so whatever that means, like, yeah, as far as like what legal system that falls under, but that basically means that Nintendo was really starting to like become like a figurehead worldwide, like even like 80 years later, prior to 1889 to like 1960, roughly 71 years. As of right now, Nintendo has 11 different logos that they've had throughout their history. They've changed it ever since 1889 all the way up until 2020. You know, despite what you might think about Tokyo being where Nintendo does most of their business, is that's actually Kyoto. Kyoto has at least two buildings in Japan where they roughly do the research and the engineering, but then their head office is the other one where all the shots are being called from like the high upper management, you know, so like the president of Japan and all that. Probably might be doing more business in Kyoto than he would be doing in Tokyo. And that's kind of contradictory to belief because if you think about it, Tokyo is like the main center for Japan, but like Kyoto's like not too far behind. So Nintendo's actually done a lot better in Kyoto, its hometown, rather than you know, over in, I mean, they do good in Tokyo as well, but you get it. You know, Nintendo being Nintendo, so they do what they have to do to succeed, right? So again, if you like this video, comment, rate, subscribe, favorite, share it. I'll do the best I can. If you have any requests, let me know. You can support me on Patreon if you like these kind of videos, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And you know, yeah, just if you're having a good day, keep having a good day, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.